Hi guys. We have Mohit Gang of Moneyfront who's going to be with us in just a bit to discuss. As I was telling you guys earlier, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about mutual funds, personal finance, how you should be managing money. Okay, so in just a bit, we're going to begin. Hi Mohit,
Hi Sonia, hi.
how are you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How's the quarantine treating you?
Yeah, same as everyone. I think there's no distinction between. So the good part about quarantine is it doesn't distinguish between people. So we're all locked down. We're all doing the same stuff, same daily routine,
I
very much.
know, and I think there's more work from home than from the office, right? At least that's how I feel.
Absolutely. I think in our business, the good part is people have time and they are now keen on reviewing their portfolios, which is
Yes,
good.
yes.
And I think everyone wants to have a discussion.
Absolutely, and that was the reason why I wanted to do this live. I know it's a Saturday night and people would rather not talk about work on a Saturday night, but now, kya Saturday, kya Sunday, right? I mean, every day is the same.
Yeah.
So, I think we get so many queries every day, Mohit. And before we go to the queries that people are asking us, let me just say hi to a few people. Hi, Chetan. Okay, a lot of people joining in right now, so we're going to wait for them to come
Yeah.
through. I wanted to just start by asking you, in such a situation where, frankly, no one knows whether they're going to have a job or they're going to go for a pay cut 3 to 6 months down the line, right? The situation is so bad. So, what do you do? I mean, what are you advising your clients to do right now with respect to their money?
Okay. So look, I think it's a largish question, and we'll try and answer this during our discussion today. But I think first things first, as a basic and the most fundamental tenet of personal finance and financial planning, everyone needs to start their plan with an emergency corpus. And that is where it starts. That's the starting point of all discussions. If people have not done that previously, I think they're now realizing how critical and how important it was. And I think, as a thumb rule goes, you should have at least 6 months of your cash salary invested in a pure FD, which is sweepable, or invested in a liquid fund. It should be like completely liquid to you, which can be pulled out overnight. So
Okay.
that's like the most basic principle. And if you are working in an industry which has got impacted heavily because of this COVID situation now, that's a new thing which has come into play. So
Yeah.
then the rule goes into a further extension, and now I'm personally going and advising all my clients who are in travel industry or who are somewhat seriously impacted because of this entire thing, maybe entertainment industry, industries like your retail malls and so on and so forth. I think those kind of people need to have at least a year's provision, basically travel, aviation. I think those industries, those sectors, if you are remotely linked, if your fortunes are connected to a flight flying or from one location to
So
another, trust me.
you're saying a year's provisions in an FD or 6 months of your salary in a pure FD that you can liquidate at any point in time, right? That should be the
Absolutely.
strategy.
That's like keeping cash, emergency cash. Basically, I don't advise anyone to keep cash like an idle cash at home because that doesn't fetch you anything. An FD will still fetch you whatever 5-6% kind of a return, and it's sweepable. So you can pull out your money any point in time. You can pull out with a debit card swipe, and that's what's more important. And for people who are impacted, I think a year's provision is a must.
Okay, got that. That's important actually. So kind of like an emergency corpus is what you should be creating for yourself, right? But Mohit,
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you now, what should the asset allocation strategy be? Because a lot of people have money in mutual funds right now, and the common query we get is, should we redeem our money, should we stop our SIP, should we redeem our money? Because A, we don't know if we're going to have a job 3 months from now, and B, we don't know if the market is going to see a second wave of a sell-off if this COVID situation escalates. So what is your recommendation? Should one be, going and selling their mutual funds, redeeming it, what to do with SIPs?
Uh, Look, so redemption is always a last resort, basically, and so typically, let's take some examples. Let's say if your asset allocation, the advised asset allocation was 50-50. You needed to have 50% in debt and 50% in equity, right? And now, because of the situation, you need some emergency funding, you need some liquidity in your portfolio, and you have to redeem. The whole situation is that exactly sitting here, you will not be at any point in time exact 50-50. If you decided that your allocation was 50-50, and today, by virtue of whatever your investments or because of market movement, your current allocation is, let's say, 60-40. You are 60 debt and 40 equity. Then you need to shave off 10 from your debt and bring it down to 50-50. If you were 70 equity, 30 debt, and you agreed upon a 50-50 allocation with your advisor, it's a good time to go back to basics and come back to a 50-50 allocation and shave off equity. That's rule number one. I'm assuming people will be mostly in line. Let's take the right assumption out here. Though very rarely would you find people agreeing to an allocation and then following it to the T. But if you're following that asset allocation, the fundamental rule is that you park money in debt because of these kind of scenarios. Debt is meant to provide you liquidity. Debt is meant for short-term parking, and even in debt there are short-term debt and long-term debt. So whatever you parked in short-term debt should be your first recourse or your first go-to zone. You should pull
Okay.
out money from there, which is your liquid funds, your ultra short-term funds. These will not impact your will not have much of exit implications, and I'm assuming will not even have a lot of tax implications. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have to pull out from equity, let's say the scenario is such that you're mostly invested into equity, equity is down, beaten down, you
It's
making
beaten
some
down
loss.
and how, Mohit? I mean, if you look at it, even if you had put money 5 years back, your your portfolio right now is lower than what it was in certain mid cap and small cap funds than what it was 5 years back. I mean, you have made absolutely no returns. In some, you have actually made negative returns. So people are frustrated. It's not only patience. I mean, now it's like almost bad luck. Market was in any case in a downtrend. The economy was any case in a downtrend. And now on top of this whole COVID impact, right? So people are like, I'd rather just keep my money in my house than put it in a mutual fund and lose money. So I mean, what is your suggestion there? Like with mid caps, with small cap funds, should you continue SIPs, or should you now just sort of churn and move into, say, large cap funds where at least there is some sort of protection?
Again, it will depend from investor to investor, and no shoe fits all legs. So no one size can be like a right recommendation for everyone. However, what I would suggest is that small cap is not the zone to go for.
Okay.
Honestly, I think that's one segment which might take like really, if not many years, but at least like couple of years to come back or to fight back its chances, basically. So ideally, if you want to continue SIPs, please continue, because that's the dharma of SIP, that you continue, you don't break it. That's what it is meant for. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done SIPs. If you wanted to invest lump sum, you could have taken that route any day, right? You wanted to stagger out and ride out the volatility. That's what you've done it for. So please preserve it, please continue. But tactically, what you should do is you should try and limit your small cap, mid cap allocations and move more towards large cap. You are bang on that point. It's the right time to move towards large caps, blue chips, index funds. Those are the zones which are the safest zones, which will ride back the fastest. Quality will be rewarded, has been rewarded in this market. Even in this kind of a correction, you see some of those consumer names there like at all-time highs. So
Yeah.
quality is getting rewarded, right? And that's the safest zone to be in.
Okay, so I two things I got out of the conversation so far is that one, you should keep your money at least 6 months of your reserves in an FD. You
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen in the future, so an FD that can be liquidated at any point in time. And the second is, at this point, because the market is in a bit of a jittery spot, you avoid investing in small caps. Mid caps are okay, but largely one would want to be in large caps at the point. But what about panic selling? That's something that we've talked about earlier as well. People in this market tend to sort of go ahead and sell and take their profits out, but then they don't know what to do with the money. So, what is your advice to them?
Look, so on a daily basis, I get at least 3 calls where one of our investors is telling us कि अभी निकाल लेता हूँ और फिर जब market नीचे आएगा तो वापस डाल दूंगा. right?
Uh-huh.
So it sounds so easy and so charismatic that oh wow, it's such a simple thing and it's not striking me. How can that happen? That अभी निकाल लेता हूँ and फिर maybe 2 महीने में market तो नीचे आना ही है, and then we will put it back. I wish it was so simple. To be very honest, I don't think so. There is a single soul out there, the most intellectuals
Who know what's
out
going to
there who
happen,
can.
right?
Absolutely, absolutely, right. No one could have predicted that this kind of a rally or a bounce back in the market in last 10, 15 odd days, right? None
But
of the.
what do you think is the reason behind the bounce back? I mean, we've all been talking about COVID increasing cases, but the fact of the matter is the market is now up 20% from the lows.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and stocks are also, if you look at HUL is at a record high. Stocks in the FMCG space, IT space, or TCS was up
Absolutely.
7% on Friday. So, I mean, what do you think the reason could be because for the market to rally so much?
Look, so finally, I think, like in every correction, there is a point of retracement, and then there is a point where market realizes that they've overdone it. I'm not sure whether it was a point of retracement or whether it was a point where market like really fatigued out and said that okay, we've overdone this entire correction. Perhaps either of the cases, right? And only time can prove us right or wrong on both the counts.
Yeah.
But markets are way ahead of what you and I are talking, what economists are predicting, and market and economy are two very, very different subjects, right? They're
Yeah.
just, we try and link it as much as we do, but they're not linked. And that's a brutal fact about the markets. Markets are working 2 years ahead of time, and economy is like what happened last three
Market is
months. And
pricing in that market is already pricing in a vaccination, I think. That yeah, that's
absolutely,
going to come
absolutely.
maybe 1 year down the line.
No, and
But
you,
are you
you perhaps
advising
right
your
on that
clients
count.
to are you advising your clients to put money now?
Look, so we've always followed the asset allocation principle, where we keep telling our clients that if you were initially targeting 50-50 allocation, and by virtue of this correction, if you've fallen to let's say 35 equity and 65 debt, because equity has obviously fallen in value, and if you're sitting in liquidity, times can't be better. Times can't be better. 5 years down the line, you possibly will come back and say, okay, wow, we did this and we took this brave call, right? And there is all the chance that you will see another 10% dip. Your equity allocation will fall down to 25% or 30%. The whole jigsaw in this entire puzzle is if you are sitting in liquidity or not, and whether you were always there with the dry gunpowder. If you're not, if you're totally packed in, if you're all invested, then obviously there's no choice for you but to hang on with your allocations, basically, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
it will depend on a client specific situation.
Okay, well, we are getting a lot of questions and a lot of more people have joined in. So I'm just going to try and open up some of the questions now. Mohit, if you want to take some of them. Uh, okay, so there's
I'll go with your
someone.
pick.
Sorry, what did you say?
I'll go with whatever you want to pick from there.
Okay, so we have Karuna Anand who has written to us saying, are Indian banks strong enough to withstand the recession post the lockdown? You advise some of these banking funds, etc. What's your view here?
Okay, so look, I don't think so. It's a very broad statement, putting a finger on Indian banking system per se. I don't think so. Situation has been so grave or so grim that we kind of question the very banks which run the entire crux of the entire economy is handled out there, right? And I think RBI is making all the right moves and all the right noises, right? To be very honest, I think they've been right bang on in terms of reducing the rates. They've been bang on in terms of TLTROs which they are conducting. They're trying and pushing liquidity towards corporates, and yesterday what they did was they're trying and pushing liquidity more towards NBFCs now. 50,000 crores of additional TLTRO. So I
Yeah.
think the banking system is robust. Irrespective of whatever has happened, and let me assure all the viewers out here, irrespective of whatever has happened, we have not seen a case of a bank failing in India.
So you
There's
haven't
never
seen
been
a
a case.
case of a bank failing, but you know what? As the economic damage of the the second order economic damage plays out, don't you think that is going to affect a lot of these retail focused banks? Because we don't even know what the second order damage is going to be. I mean, when are people going to start getting out? When are they start going to malls, theaters? The damage is going to be because of these migrant laborers going. Production is not started for so many sectors. So eventually all of this will fall on banks only, right? On the lenders.
Yeah, so look, finally, whatever happens in the economy, the flow of money, the velocity, the money multiplier, everything is routed through banks in the country, right? So whatever happens to the economy, if malls are not working, if travel industry is not working, finally at the backbone is a bank, right? Who's been providing lending, who's given working capital lines, and every good corporate has outstanding debt with banks. So you're right to that extent that banks who have retail lending or small ticket loans, and those are likely to be impacted to a larger extent. However, there are banks which will also benefit to an extent that people will try and conserve more cash. People will try and park more. So banks with strong CASA books, strong liability books, maybe lending can get impacted, but the banks with strong CASA books, strong liability books are the ones which will get benefited also to a large extent. What we've also seen of late is that a lot of money which is moving to larger private sector banks from those weaker PSU names or weaker private sector banks because of whatever has happened on the credit side for last 1.5 years, and there's been a little bit of fear with respect to few banking names. So we've seen a lot of private banks have become stronger and stronger as with their franchises. So I think there are always two sides to the coin. Banking per se will remain the backbone of the economy, and the first signs of economy pickup will also happen with banking pickup.
Okay, so we're getting a lot more questions. So let me just go straight to them. There's someone who's written to us saying, how much time will it take to see a recovery in auto stocks? That's Mehul. Mehul, thank you for your question. So I just want to answer that because I track the sector closely. Now, we have reached out to all the OEMs, that's the auto manufacturers, and they say that despite the relaxation guidelines coming out, there's no clarity on whether they can resume production before the 3rd of May or not. April 20th, they've said that they've relaxed the guidelines, but as of now, there is no clarity on whether they can resume production. So there's going to be a lot more financial damage for many of these auto companies. But Mohit, what's your view on them? Because despite all of the negativity, some of these auto stocks like Maruti, for example, is up 30% from its lows. So there's a bounce back that we're seeing there. How do you approach that?
Look, again, two sides to see it. It's up 30% from its lows, is also down 50% from its peak level, right? So there are both sides to look at it. However, I think you are right out there, and I'll kind of echo the sentiment. There's no rush in minds of anyone to go out and purchase a car right now. Even if lockdown opens up a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, you and I are not rushing out to buy our dream cars. We're not sure of our cash flows. We're not sure of how the situation pans out.
And I think the last thing you will buy, even if the lockdown gets lifted and you go out, the last thing you'll do is go to a dealership and buy a car, right? I mean,
absolutely. No discretionary purchases happening for a long time now. All discretionary purchases. I'll not stop at auto, but I think all kinds of discretionary purchases. I think people will tend to avoid. You're not sure of your bonuses. You're not sure of what the next year entails. No one is getting a salary hike for sure. I know if someone is getting, please ping me, and I'd love to know the industry.
Let us know if you're getting a salary hike or not, right? Because
absolutely.
Salaries are getting cut for sure.
100%. That's a situation which is just waiting to hit all of us. So discretionary purchases, your consumer durables, your autos and cars. I think cars is more a luxury statement. I don't think so. People are rushing out. There is one thought which says that there will be less of Uber Ola now because of all this
so
situation.
People will prefer to travel in their own cars because they don't want to travel by the radio taxis.
But still, I don't see a real rush in next 3-6 months. I think it's better to wait and watch. There's no need of rushing on to buy a stock which has just risen because of some technical bounce back or something. I think people should wait out there.
Okay, absolutely. Well, we are getting a lot of queries. How about IT companies like TCS or Infosys? Rasesh has written to us. Rasesh, thanks for your question. So, I just want to make a point here that TCS came out with their numbers. Infosys is on Monday, so we'll know only then. But in TCS numbers, despite such a challenging environment, the commentary from the management was very positive. They did mention that, they have deal wins of almost $9 billion. They said that despite COVID, there is no structural damage to any sector globally, and that's a big positive. And global central banks world over are taking decisions very quickly, so they expect things to recover. So, Mohit, do you see this as a space which could be a safe haven? We've seen safe haven buying in pharma, in consumption. You think there could be safe haven buying in IT as well?
Look, so I think the bigger IT names, those are good zones to be in. Honestly, I think that kind of an IT spend, which is so TCS is virtually the backbone of most of the corporates today in the country and most of the banking sector also, not just in India but globally, right? It's not about providing a new software or a new service, but they have been running the functions. And as more people go digital, as more corporates go digital, more banks go digital in their functionalities, the usefulness or the workflow of these big large IT names is bound to increase. They're trading at attractive levels. As say I see typically, let's say a TCS kind of a company which is market leaders trading at 20 times multiple today, trailing multiple, right? Which is not bad. Which is not
Yeah.
bad for a stock of that size. 7 lakh market crore, 7 lakh cap, lakh crore market cap, leader in the industry. So you stick to leaders in segments like these, which are global players, where the spends will not be cut to a large extent. I think you are in good zone out there.
Okay, okay, okay. Got that. Can you please put your views on the telecom industry post the lockdown? That's someone called Yayati has written to us. Thanks for that question. So I believe personally, I don't know about you, Mohit, but with the way everyone's working from home, data consumption has just gone through the roof. And these guys, Bharti, Reliance, are the big beneficiaries of this, right? So despite the rally that these stocks have seen, I think it's only going to get better for them.
Uh, yeah, broadly, I think I agree, but it's very difficult to call it an industry now. To be very honest, I would refrain to call it telecom industry. There are just two telecom players now
Yeah.
virtually, right? Even though Vodafone remains a player, but I don't think so anyone is rushing out to buy the stock currently. With regards to Bharti, that's the only pure play telecom stock which is available. Reliance is more an embedded value of Jio. So it's about Bharti, right? The industry is
Yeah.
whether you want to buy Bharti or you don't want to buy Bharti, right? That's your question on
Yeah.
telecom. So I think look, Bharti has gone through a lot of pain because of Jio coming in, because of AGR dues, because of all those things, and it's withstood the entire thing. The debt on the book is extremely large still, and the telecom, but I think it's become a duopoly industry, and with
Hmm.
two players now, honestly, Bharti will benefit. They have robust systems and everything is in place, the infrastructure is in place, and they have the money to withstand the AGR pressures and everything. And in
Hmm.
a duopoly industry, I think both the players benefit. That's
Okay, this
that's
is
just
a
general rule.
sure, sure, got that. We are actually getting so many questions, so I don't want to leave anyone disappointed. I'm going to try and take as many questions as possible.
Sure.
This is from Ankit, and I think it's right down your alley, Mohit. So let me take it. Hi, you've been suggesting index funds as a good option to invest. So why not a blue chip fund like Axis Blue Chip, which has been beating Nifty 50 by a good percentage? What is your suggestion?
That's my
Mohit, you want to take
favorite
that?
subject and research area, actually. So look, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. Axis Blue Chip has shown stellar performance. Has beaten the index on the last 1 year and even a slightly largish scale. They've been doing really good, and I don't take credit away from Axis as a fund house. They've been doing good across categories. But if you personally ask me, uh, I take a view of 10 years, right? I'm buying the index, I'm buying the barometer of the economy. Do I think can anyone beat the index consistently quarter on quarter for next 10 years with an expense ratio of 1.5% on direct plans and almost 2% in a regular plan? I don't think so that's happening. I don't think so that's happening. Index embeds the dividend yield, which is almost as good as 1.5%. And
Hmm.
then the expense ratio differential, which is again a 1% differential, which means you have to beat the index. A large cap fund has to beat the index by a good 2% year on year for next decade to actually show some outperformance. I don't think so that's happening. Trust me, it's not happened in developed markets. It will not happen in India.
Okay, so if you had to put your finger on two or three good funds that one can invest into now, because we're getting a lot of questions on that as well, which are the, by and large, the large cap funds, the balanced funds that you are recommending to investors now?
Okay,
Actually,
so
in fact,
I
Mayur has just asked that question. What is one of the mutual fund SIP that I can go for with a time frame of 6 to 10 years? And he wants to invest 5,000 per year. I think it's a very common question. So you want to take that?
Yeah, that's a good time horizon. At least 10 years is the perfect time horizon to be investing in equities. Go with a Nifty index fund. You can take a Tata Nifty index fund or a true ICICI Nifty index fund. Take one multi-cap fund. It can be an SBI Magnum multi-cap or a Kotak Standard multi-cap. And I think two funds should be good enough. If you want an additional one, go with a large plus mid-cap category, which will be a Mirai Asset Emerging Blue Chip Fund. So I
Okay,
think three
great.
funds should be good.
That's great. That's great. There's someone who's written that how do you do research for equity mutual funds? Now, I want to take this question. I think it's come from Adi. Adi, thanks for writing in. You know, this is a topic for another day, and I'm going to do a sort of a explainer on this very soon. But what are the top two or three things that you need to do, Mohit, before you invest into a mutual fund? And where do you do your own research?
That's a fairly tough one, honestly, and I think it can be a separate 1 hour discussion,
So
basically
let me tell
going
you, let me
covering.
before you start, let me tell you what I do. So you know, at CNBC, of course, we can't invest in stocks, but we can put money in mutual funds for the long term. So what I do is that there's value research online, which I generally use. I go on to value research and then I, you know, type in my mutual fund and then I see the returns and the stocks and then I study individual stocks, etc. So that's my main go-to value research online. But you tell us what should be the two or three things that investors should do.
Okay, I'll try and restrict this to equity because that is a very complex subject. For equity mutual funds, the first thing you should do is go and check the fund manager's name. Basically, what you should do is try and see what the track record of a particular fund manager is. So let's say if you want to buy a large cap fund, you want to go for a Prashant Jain fund, or you want to go for an S. Narain fund, or you want to go for an Anand Radhakrishnan fund from Franklin. You just need to go check how long have they been in business, how many cycles have they seen. Most of these good names, they have been in the industry for 15, 20, 25 years. You can ignore all ratios, you can ignore all composition, but if you know the person or your advisor or the hand in which you are trusting your money with has been out there for 20, 25 years, has seen all market cycles, you could very well go ahead with that name. That one single criteria of choosing the right fund manager can actually reap you a lot of rewards while selecting schemes. I'm not saying other criteria are not relevant, but don't go by past returns. That should be the last of your worries, honestly. All categories tend to revert to mean in 5 years, which means if the all good 10 large cap funds will tend to mean return in 5 years, they will almost give you plus minus 1% return in five years, and 10 years the range will be even shorter. So go with a good name, good fund manager, and a reliable fund house.
Okay. Can we start an SIP and international mutual funds for at least 3 years? Now, what you've used, we've spoken about this in the past, but what would your answer be?
Of course, go ahead and do that. There are good funds. There is a Nasdaq 100 fund from Motilal Oswal. They've also coming out with an S&P 500 ETF. There is a US opportunities fund by JP Morgan, which Edelweiss runs as a strategy. There is a Franklin US opportunity. So US will remain the largest engine of global growth, right? Whatever we might say. Just two things. You run a currency risk out there, so be aware of that. And all these international funds are considered as fund of funds, so they are taxed as debt funds in India, which means you will have to hold for 3 years for the fund to become large, long term, and it will be taxed as a debt scheme. So just take note of that.
And how is Motilal Oswal S&P? A lot of people are asking about that.
Look, so you have two choices whether you want to invest in S&P 500 as an index or Nasdaq 100. Even Nasdaq 100 is available with Motilal. If you want a tech-heavy orientation in your investment, then go with Nasdaq. It's 65% technology companies. All your big tech names are out there, and the newer tech names which are coming are being represented out there. I think the world ahead is more a technology world. It's
Yeah.
getting digital by the day, and situations like these are forcing everyone to go digital. We are doing an Insta Live today, which is a
Yeah.
first. So technology is
Moving
just
very fast.
formulating.
Huh? Technology is moving really fast, and we are trying to keep up with that. So,
Absolutely,
okay, so
absolutely. So go for
True
Nasdaq
Copy
100.
Center has written. Sorry, True Copy Center has written. Do you think it's better to have an index fund in a developed economy like S&P 500 or a developing country like India? Fair point, because I would always believe that it's better to invest here in India, right? You know, you can track the companies that they invest in. I mean, kya pata what are the companies that the international funds are investing in, how they're doing. So, but what's your own recommendation?
Look, I would say if you can do both, basically I think an international diversification is a great thing to have in portfolios. 5 to 10% of your allocation should be global exposure. And last 3 5 years of history will tell you that global funds have done much better than Indian index funds, or Indian markets have fared poorly as compared to US markets, both as a current in terms of currency and in terms of the underlying market, right? So it's always good to have an international exposure. I would say have both.
Okay, have both. I want to just take, there's a question Sham Vinay has asked us, is it a good time to buy Inox or PVR? Now, this is, I think, the worst time for these cinema guys, right? We were just speaking to PVR a while back, a few days back, and he told us that it's not just a 2 3 month impact. There's a psychological change that the industry is going to go through. Even once the lockdown is lifted, people are not going to go to theaters anytime soon. I mean, they may still go to a park or to a beach, but not to a theater for sure, because of fear of contamination, fear of proximity to people, etc. So I don't think this is the best time to invest in some of these theater stocks. Just stay away for a while. Okay, G Naveen has written, do you have you started an SIP for Kabir? Please share some fun names. Okay, Kabir is my son. Of course, you started SIPs for him. But Mohit, you tell us, if you, I'm sure many people who are joining us have kids. If you want to start an SIP for your kid for the long term, 10 years, 15 years, what are the 2 or 3 best funds to invest into?
Look, so you should always do that, because I've realized finally that a corpus which is being assigned in the name of your children, you will never touch it. That becomes like the lender of last resort for you. You will tend to redeem your own holdings, you would tinker around, you would see it in screen, but something which you've done for your daughter or for your son, trust me, you will not go and touch it out. And that's the best thing you can do with equity funds. So please start that. If you haven't done that, please open up a bank account in the name of your children. That's compulsory now to invest in mutual funds. You can't have money going from your account into a child's SIP. It should be through his or her account where you are as a guardian. That's rule
So,
number
what
one.
are the 2 or 3 funds that you would suggest?
Go for a multi-cap fund, go for a large plus mid-cap fund, and if risk permits, go even for a mid-cap fund. So multi-cap, Kotak Standard multi-cap, SBI Magnum multi-cap, large plus mid, Mirae Asset Emerging Blue Chip, Tata Large and Mid, and in a mid-cap, go with an SBI mid-cap, DSP mid-cap, L&T mid-cap. So those are good ones.
Okay, those are many names. Thanks for sharing them. There's someone who's written about Franklin Large Cap Fund. I did not go with my investment because of the market situation, but is it a good fund? Mayur has written to us. What's your recommendation?
So I understand what you're talking is Franklin Blue Chip Fund,
Yeah.
basically because that's the large cap category representation from Franklin. The funds have not been doing great, and for Franklin per se, I think they've struggled for last 1.5 years to get the strategy right on the large cap front. I think they were not in Reliance when Reliance was rallying, and that hit the performance very badly for the large cap name. I would rather ask you to move out of the fund and move to an index fund.
Okay, now we are getting questions at a really fast pace, and guys, I just cannot keep up. But I'm going to try. Muthu Kumar Subramanian is asking, suggest any ELSS fund. Mohit?
Okay. So ELSS, it's you can go for a Mirai or Motilal ELSS, even Axis one, they are good. And a long-term name out there is Birla Tax Relief 56 Fund. So those are good ones.
Okay, okay. Axis Focus 25 Fund, Axis Blue Chip Fund seems to be really popular. Everyone's asking
Yes.
about that. What is so good about that fund, and is it like good with a 2 3 year time horizon?
Yeah, I think Axis funds are doing great. The fund manager Shreyash is doing a great job. Axis Blue Chip, Axis Focus 25, Axis Multicap, all have been like leaders in their segment. And if you are already invested, continue to hold, allocate more. If you're not, and you want to consider Axis funds in any of the categories, I think they're really doing good. You can go for one of the names because the fund manager remains common. There's no point having three or four from the same fund house. You would rather want to diversify across fund managers, but have one from Axis.
Okay, so good going for Axis Blue Chip. Rohan has written to us, can we buy aviation stocks at current levels? I think that's the same answer that you can have for the theatre stocks, because aviation is one of the worst hit industries in the world today because of the lockdown. And now that the aviation, the airspace is not going to be opened up till the 3rd of May, so the losses are going to be higher for them. I think you just should stay away from this space for a bit. Vineet has written, you work so hard. Yes, we all do, right? So, someone's written, what are the shows that you're watching currently? So, Mohit, just to take a breather from all of this stock talk, what do you do? I mean, how do you pass your time? Are you watching shows? Do you have any hobbies?
Okay, look, so I am a little what do you say, primitive in that sense that I'm not on Netflix, I'm not on Amazon Prime, I'm not on any of those new solutions. I do watch Mahabharat and Ramayana every day. Trust me. So those 4 hours are locked. I watch a lot of CNBC and Sonia and Anuj basically. So I think those are good things. But yes, what I've done is I've caught onto some movies which were pending. So I think in last whatever days of lockdown, I've seen like good 14 odd movies. I've finished 3 books. I'm on the verge of finishing third one. So yeah, those few long pending things are just getting taken care of, and good time with family.
I just cannot pick up a book, maybe because we do so much reading for work as well. But I am watching a lot of shows. I want to start watching Fauda. I heard it's really good, and all my friends, everyone's watched it. So I'm going to start watching. Yes, I'm going to watch Money Heist as well. Karuna Nand has recommended that. Thanks for that. Okay, getting back to some queries. Now, someone's written, Shubhang has written that equity mutual funds are giving negative returns. Is this the best time to start SIP in a debt fund? And if yes, can you share a few names? We didn't talk about funds in great detail, but you want to take that one, Mohit?
Oh, yes, you should always build a corpus in debt like you try and build for equity. If you want to start an SIP with a 3-year horizon in debt fund, do that in a banking and PSU debt fund or a corporate bond fund. Try and restrict the portfolio quality to AAA, and I think those are good zones. You can go for an IDFC banking and PSU debt fund or an HDFC corporate bond fund. Those are good picks, or a Kotak corporate bond fund.
Kotak corporate bond fund, HDFC
corporate bond fund, IDFC banking and PSU debt fund. That's a good one.
Okay, got that. Tarun has asked us, growth or dividend fund, what would you recommend?
Growth now, more so because now dividends are all taxable in the hands of investors. So entire dividend income will get clubbed to your marginal income and get taxed at your marginal rate. Unless your marginal tax rate is quite low and you're not in the highest tax bracket, it doesn't make sense for anyone to be in dividend options now. Whatever you're doing, debt, equity, please move to growth options.
Move to growth funds, okay.
Unless you need liquidity.
Sorry, what did you say?
Unless you need regular flows and liquidity, but be careful that dividends will be taxed now in your hands, and not a dividend distribution tax has gone off. So fund houses won't deduct, but it will be taxed as income in your hand.
Okay, got that. So someone's written to us about a mid-cap fund. Nitish has written to us saying, HDFC mid-cap opportunities, shall I continue my SIP? I think, you started by saying that this is not a good time to be in mid-cap and small-cap funds. But if you are in a mid-cap fund, what should you be doing?
Hold on to the fund, stop the SIP, and try and move the incremental flows to a large-cap fund.
Okay, so stop the SIPs in the HDFC mid-cap fund. That's a specific answer to that specific question. Mayur has written to us, I want to invest for my mother. She's 55. We have a time horizon of 10 years. Can invest 5,000 per year. Which debt fund should I go for? First, should she invest in a debt fund at all? And if yes, which one would you recommend?
Okay, I think, at that age, debt fund is the most advisable allocation. I would continue to believe that with a 3+ year of horizon on debt, you should go for a banking and PSU debt fund or a corporate bond fund. I've already given my recommendations out there. Any banking and PSU debt fund for that matter is a good pick right now for anyone. It's the best quality paper you can get. There is also this Bharat Bond ETF from Edelweiss, which is available in the market with a 10-year option. It's a 10-year roll down product with the highest and the best quality papers at the lowest cost available. That can be a very good allocation for people at that age and looking for a 10-year horizon.
Okay. Sudhir has written to us, please suggest a small cap fund. Well, Sudhir, I don't know if you missed the earlier part of the conversation, but Mohit was saying that this is a good time to avoid small cap funds because you don't know which way the market is going to head. There's so much uncertainty. But if one has to invest in small cap, which one would you suggest?
I would go with SBI small cap and DSP small cap. Those are good ones. If you really have a 10-year horizon, I think yes. And if you have liquidity by your side, please go ahead and do that.
Okay, all right. Someone's written to us saying that I have too many questions for Mohit. So how do I reach you for any of my queries once this is over? So Mohit, you wanna just tell them where they can reach you
Oh
and
yeah,
how?
you can DM me on my Twitter handle. You can reach out to me on my mail ID, which is m.gang@moneyfront.in. We run a platform called moneyfront.in. You are free to our all our coordinates, our LinkedIn IDs, everything is out there on the website, which is moneyfront.in. Please
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to me or my team, and we are always available.
Okay, a lot of questions coming on gold. So, with the way gold has been surging and with the way like everyone's rushing towards safe haven buying, is there still more to go in gold, you feel?
Uh, Look, so gold will continue to do well till the time world will continue to remain in fear. I don't have answers for both, whether world will continue to remain in fear for some more time, 6 months, a year, or maybe a longish time horizon. But I think world will continue to do live in fear for some more time. Gold as an asset allocation is must. So 5% or 10% of your portfolio has to go in gold. If you want to invest in gold, go for SGBs, the sovereign gold bonds, which government has notified again. The new tranche is coming in April, April, May, June. Three new tranches are coming. It's the best form of investing in gold. Please go ahead and invest up to 5 to 10% of your overall portfolio in gold.
Okay. Just a few more questions, and I think then we'll wind down the session because we've gone
Yeah.
on for a goodish bit. But there is someone who's written to me about the tax saver fund. Okay, that is Rikin. He says, I've invested in SIP, I'm doing an SIP in the HDFC tax saver regular growth plan. What's your view on that?
Look, so tax savers, if you've been continuing in the same tax saver for many years now, it makes sense for you to build up in the same tax saver. HDFC as a fund house is a good stable fund house, and a tax saver though has not been the best of performers in that category. You can continue if you want to consider an alternate one. You can go for Birla Tax Relief 96, or you can also go for the Mirai and Motilal tax saver plans. Both are all three are equally good.
Okay, Birla, Mirai, and Motilal tax saver plans. All right. Someone's written to me, Rohit, view on Britannia. Well, Britannia is one stock that has really been, making new highs because if
Yeah,
people are buying nothing but they are buying biscuits and
yeah,
butter
everyone's
and
eating a lot
cheese
of
for
biscuits.
sure, they are stocking up for sure, right? So Britannia is only going one way and that's upwards. But how can Yes Bank look in 3 years? Now, I get so many queries on Yes Bank, but I just want to say one thing that, there are many banks which are in a much better financial shape than Yes Bank. So it's just better to kind of look at those banks rather than, in these troubled times, go towards troubled
Absolutely.
stocks. Don't do that. Right, Mohit? What do you
Don't
think?
don't catch falling knives. The greatest principle of investments. There's no point trying and being heroic in some things unless you really know something which the market doesn't know. So never go and catch a falling knife. Stay away from those names. Be in the large cap zones. There is enough and more value available today in the market. There are many names in banking which have gone beaten down black and blue. 30%, 35% down is a common phenomena. Just pick up any of those good large private banking names.
Okay, someone has written to us, as a student, I save around 3,000 bucks every month. How should I go with this? So I assume you want to invest those 3,000 bucks every month into the market. Mohit, your answer?
1000 index, 1000 multi-cap, and 1000 a large cap. I think there goes a 3000 per month. Go for a Tata Nifty index, go for a Axis large cap or Axis blue chip rather, and go for an SBI multi-cap.
Okay, well, that's a specific answer. So, before we wind down, Mohit, just a final question. I mean, since you have been in the market for so long, you've tracked this space. This is an unprecedented, event that we're seeing, right? I mean, the financial crash in 2008 had one sector that was broken down, which was the financial sector. This time, no one knows how long it's going to take for recovery. There's no sector which is actually broken down just yet. It's just that business has come to a halt. So once things recover, only we'll be able to tell the real damage. But what's your sense on how long it would take? Whether this is a big bear market that we're staring at, or it's just a, you know, it's just a flash in the pan. I mean, how have you sort of assessed the whole situation so far?
Look, so like all pandemics or all crises in the market, basically there is one commonality, which is everything is very painful, but finally surmountable, right? And I firmly believe in that thing. So you've gone through history of world markets have gone through crises before. This one though is unique, and every crisis is unique. There was no crisis which was like a previous one, if you go back in the date. And every time, whether there was a global financial crisis, everyone used to say, "Oh, this is a new one for the world. We have never seen a scenario where the entire derivative market has exploded," and so on and so forth. And IT boom में भी ऐसा ही था. So every time the crisis comes, there is a new story around it, right? It can't be common. It is surmountable. How long will it take? No one knows. But we will recover. We definitely will bounce back from here. Don't go with projections of when the economy will come back to its feet and when will you start investing. That's an absolute wrong way of judging things. If you think economy will come back in 2021 second half, don't think that markets will wait for the economy to come back on its feet and then start rising up. No, it won't happen that way. Markets will perhaps complete their leg this year second half and be done with it, right? And if the economy is likely to bounce back in 2022, markets perhaps will bounce back in 2021 and be done with it.
Yeah.
And you and I can't predict that timing. Only thing which you and I have in control is to keep investing as per our asset allocation. Please don't miss that at any point in time. If you're supposed to be 50 equity, 50 debt, follow that like a religion and just don't deviate. Keep those basic principles handy. Don't
So
miss your EMIs.
don't
Don't,
redeem any of your, don't panic sell any of your
yes.
mutual funds right now, right? Is what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a very famous quote with which I would like to perhaps end the session of Benjamin Franklin, which says that investor's chief problem and his worst enemy in times like these is likely to be himself in the end. How your investments behave is much less important than how you behave in these times. So investments will behave, and their behavior is to be volatile, go up and down, but how you behave will be of paramount importance. How you hold up and stick to your plan. That's the last thing.
That, those are some really wise words. But you know, I must say one thing before we end, that this is a very tough time for everyone. I mean,
Yes.
not just work-wise, home-wise, cooped up at home. You know, these are tough times to take very rational decisions as well. You constantly need motivation. You're away from family members. People have not seen their parents for months now. So I think
Absolutely.
people make irrational decisions in such times, right?
Yeah, yeah. Don't be brave. So there is a very thin line of difference between bravery and foolhardiness. So don't be over brave. Don't go out and pick up some, do bottom fishing, pick up some penny stocks and some beaten down names. Be safe, stay at home, be with your family. These are golden times to be with your family. Honestly, you'll never get this kind of a break in your working life. These are like
Absolutely.
school days. Everyone is doing Zoom calls and whatnot with their friends, trying and playing games. Keep yourself motivated. And one thing which I've realized is don't miss your regime. Whatever was your schedule prior to this entire thing, if you were getting up at 6 in the morning, please continue to do so. If you were doing your daily exercises at 6:30, please continue to do so. If you were getting ready and done for the office at sharp 9:30, be there, do that. If you continue to do that, you will feel good for the day, and you will have enough and more energy left in the plate to do a lot of other things. But if you start waking up at 11 just because you are at home, trust me, things will start going round in a spiral and will all go wrong.
Absolutely. In the quarantine, you need a quarantine routine as well, right? So we're going to
Yeah,
end on that.
yeah.
We're going to end on that optimistic note. Thanks, guys, for writing in. Learned a lot. A very informative session. Thanks, Aditya. I have no money, someone says. Well, my friend, neither of us have money. So we're going to have to learn to live in such a situation, right? Someone's written they've learned cooking, they're doing exercise regularly and watching CNBC TV18. Okay, that's the most
Yeah.
important thing to do. But Mohit, thank you so much for joining
My
us.
pleasure.
We're going to have many more of these sessions, but thanks a lot and you stay safe.
Absolutely, you too, and to all you guys, stay safe and enjoy this time.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.